Hi friends! Today we're talking about entropian or inverted eyelids in goat kids and how to treat it. We'll go over what causes it to happen, how to recognize it quickly, and the options for treatment both with a veterinarian or on your own at home. This episode will teach you how to easily handle what can be a scary situation. So let's dive in. Hey friends, welcome to the Get Goatwise podcast. Are you longing to raise goats and other animals for food but don't know where to start? Do you want to be more self-sufficient and less dependent on the grocery store? Do you wish you had a mentor to walk you through raising livestock? Hi, I'm Millie, animal scientist, cattle girl turned goat rancher, co-owner of Dry Creek Livestock, and simple living enthusiast. For 15 years, I've been on a mission to raise all of our own meat, eggs, and dairy. Here, we'll talk about raising goats and other homestead livestock, how to create sustainable animal management systems that actually work, and a bit of off-grid life with kids and livestock. If you're ready to take control of your food supply, raise livestock with confidence, and provide your family with the most nourishing meat, eggs, and dairy available, you're in the right place. Kick off your muck boots, pour a cup of coffee, and let's talk livestock. Hey there! Things are finally coming together and we're getting ready to announce goat meat availability next week. We will be shipping frozen goat meat right to your front door if you live in the United States, excluding Alaska and Hawaii. I wish we could include international customers, but since it's frozen, that probably wouldn't work out well. Anyway, it's been a ton of work to get this thing up and going, and I'm so excited to finally be able to serve the people who are looking for a quality source of premium goat meat. If you want to be the first to know when the website is live, become an insider and you'll get an email with a link and a gift when it's up and going next week. You can sign up at getgoatwise.com/insider. Speaking of the email list, wow, I need to do a little explaining. If you had already subscribed before last Wednesday, January 29th, you've probably been wondering why you haven't gotten an email from me. Well, the tech got me. Turns out what I thought was set up and running wasn't. None of the emails sent. I was suspicious, but being new to email service providers, it took me a long time to figure out what was going on. But the good news? I switched providers and I'm successfully getting emails sent now, and I'm much more tech savvy and excited to share news, tips, and encouragement. Anyway, I'm sorry if I made you wonder, and I've learned a lot in all of this. On a much brighter note, we celebrated 10,000 downloads on the podcast last week, and I'm so grateful for all of you that show up each week to listen and support the podcast. So thank you. What's happening on the ranch? It's been cold, below 0 Fahrenheit every night, but we have a storm system moving in, so it's warmed up into the 30s and it's snowing. Temps will be warmer for a few days, which is always nice when we've been so cold. It almost feels like you can see the livestock relax and breathe a sigh of relief when a cold snap finally breaks. Or maybe that's me projecting. The breeding groups have been combined. The cedar eater boar buck and the red Spanish buck are back in their buck pens and not very happy about it. The black Spanish buck is now in with all 90 does to clean up any that didn't settle on the first heat. We did this same breeding plan last year and everything bred up in the first heat, so that poor buck was searching for a doe in heat for a month and never found one. He'll get to be the star of the show soon, maybe even next year. In 4 weeks, we'll take him out and breeding season will be finished for the year. It's time to draw blood on the dairy does and test for pregnancy as well as a biosecurity panel. Since we feed their milk to the bottle babies, I like to test every year to make sure they don't have anything that could be passed through the milk to the bottle kids. Last week, I went to the city and helped a friend with a couple kids. She had a beautiful set of quadruplet doe kids, and 2 of them had entropian eyelids. Since some of you are either kidding or getting ready to kid, this is a great time to be aware of entropian, the problems it can cause, and what you can do about it. Entropian eyelids are also called inverted eyelids or rolled eyelids. It's a condition where the eyelid is turned in and the eyelashes rub on the eyeball, causing irritation. And you'll see the eye cloud over. Sometimes there will be lots of discharge. If the eye is irritated and cloudy, it can cause eventual blindness if not treated. It's not just goats. It happens in a lot of other animals, including sheep and dogs, and can also happen in humans, but I'll be focusing on what is common in goats. It's usually a lower eyelid, but can also happen on an upper eyelid. It's typically goat kids, and you see the symptoms really early on, usually within a week after birth. It can happen in mature goats and is often the result of an eye injury for them. I've never had an adult with Entropian eyelid that didn't also have some other eye-related injury. So what causes it? There is definitely a genetic component. For us, with the commercial meat goats, I don't keep any kids that have Entropian eyelids for replacements, and I take a hard look at where it came from, the doe or the buck. We haven't had one in the commercial goat herd for years, and when we did, it was always a kid that had been sired by a buck with show genetics, so we quit doing that. I just dealt with it in the show goats when we had them, but my goal with the meat goat herd is to have the lowest maintenance, easy to own goat herd you could ever find, so it's a trait I'm not willing to overlook in this herd. I sell breeding stock, so I owe it to my customers to make sure that my goats are as problem-free as possible. If there's a problem that I can do something about, I'm going to take care of it. If you're raising show goats, I'm not talking about registered boar breeding stock here, but goats where the majority of the offspring are terminal, meaning they won't be kept as replacement breeding goats, you'll probably just have to deal with it and make a mental note that specific does or bucks potentially pass on the trait, and then decide if it's something you want to try to get out of your herd or not. I have noticed that kids born early or as a triplet or quad are more likely to have Entropian eyelids. I suspect that's just because of early birth and being not quite fully developed. Mild Entropian will fix itself, and even more severe Entropian can as well, but if the eye is irritated and cloudy, it needs to be treated to avoid blindness in the affected eye. The good news is that most cases are fairly easy to treat. A veterinarian will usually put a mattress stitch in the bottom eyelid to evert it. However, most vets don't have goat experience, so the treatment could vary widely based on what they would do in other animals with Entropian. One of the first treatments that was recommended to me was to inject the eyelid with penicillin to cause it to enlarge and evert. I did that a couple of times and it worked, but it was hard to do to a tiny kid, and so I started looking at other options that would be less painful. What I found to be the best option is wound clips. It's a bit pricey to get the clips and the forceps to apply them, but still a lot cheaper than a vet visit. And they are wound clips, so they're a multi-purpose investment. On the forceps, the tip of the handles are used to hold and apply the clip, and the other end of the forceps is used to remove the clips. This is one tool I stared at for a long time before I figured out how to use it, so that's a tip that will save you a lot of confusion. There are two basic ways to apply the wound clips. You can place a clip parallel to the affected eyelid and create a pinch that will evert the eyelid. Or you can place the clip perpendicular to the eyelid, placing the upper part of the clip about 1/8 of an inch below the edge of the eyelid. This pulls the eyelid down to evert it, and there's also some swelling that will occur with both placements, which helps with eversion. This is my preferred way to do it. I like doing it this way because I have room to place extra clips on either side of the center one if the Entropian is severe or if I think the kid is going to scratch the clips out. Another reason I prefer the perpendicular placement is that it's not creating a pinch that completely pulls the eyelid away from the eye. Creating a gap there allows more dirt and debris to get in the eye and continue to irritate it. This is just my experience, and a lot of people prefer the parallel route. Try both ways and see what works best for you. Whichever placement you use, put some terramycin ointment in the eye every day to heal up any lesions that were caused by the irritation. In most cases, it's a one-and-done procedure. The clip falls out on its own within a couple weeks, and all is well. If I have a kid that scratches the clips out before the eye is corrected, I'll put the clip back in, trying the parallel placement. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. If the eye is cloudy from the irritation, it's best to keep them out of the sun while it heals. Occasionally, you'll have an eye that isn't healing. It could be a severe case that the clips just can't evert, or the kid keeps scratching the clips out. At this point, you could go ahead and have the vet stitch it, or you can patch it. Going back to the theory that Entropian will fix itself as the kid grows, if I have a case where it's just not healing, I'll patch it. The thought being that as long as it's protected and the kid has no reason to blink and cause further irritation and the sun isn't aggravating things, it'll heal on its own. I buy cattle eye patches in a kit that comes with glue and sometimes curacin, depending on the kid. I cut the patch down to fit the kid, which is tiny. The pre-made eye patches are in sort of a cone shape and made out of rigid material, so they don't actually touch the eye, but rather make a tent over it and protect it. Cut the patch big enough that you'll have room to apply glue and not get it near the eye when you place the patch. Treat the eye heavily with terramycin or curacin, which is a pink eye treatment, right before you place the patch, and make sure the face is clean and dry where the patch will be glued on. Put a thin layer of glue around the outer edge of the patch and carefully place it over the eye. Hold it in place for a few seconds and it's good to go. Once the patch is in place, the kid can go back to regular life and you don't have to worry about sunshine or clips coming out. Make sure that mama accepts the kid when you give him back. Some does are suspicious of the patch, but it's rarely an issue after the first few minutes. You'll want to help her the first few times you do this. Getting the glue done right can be interesting. If you get it on your fingers, you'll be stuck to everything. In most cases, the patch will stay on for a very long time, often more than a month. When I first started doing this, I was worried because I couldn't see what was going on underneath it. But every single time I've patched an eye, it's been perfectly healed by the time the patch comes off. With mature goats, I go straight to the patching method for eye problems, and it works like a charm. I use the same patches and method, and the nice thing about the cattle patches is you can cut them to fit any size goat because they're so big. You could easily make your own patches, but I'd use a pre-made patch first so you understand how they work and the type of material you'd need to make them function like they're supposed to. And then you can use one of the pre-made patches for a pattern. I'm sure I have some pictures of eyes I have clipped or patched, and I'll share those in the community. I'll put links in the show notes for the wound clips and forceps, the eye ointment, and the patches. I hope this helps you feel confident in treating Entropian eyelids if you ever see any in your goat kids. Actually, I hope you never have to deal with Entropian, but if you do, know that it's not difficult to treat and not life-threatening. This is just one more skill in your goat raising toolbox. If you have any comments or questions, come on over to the community and start a conversation. Hey there, thanks for listening today. I'm so glad you're here. If this episode helped you or encouraged you in some way, share the link with your homesteading friends. And if you really want to help me out, click on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and a review. You can connect with me on Instagram or email linked in the show notes, and meet me back here soon for more Get Goat Wise.